What's going on, everybody? trueeevil here, and today I want to break down how to farm Shadowflame Hoyan with a 100% win rate. Now, this is going to be extremely important because Shadowflame Hoyan drops the two best shells, in my opinion, for in-game, which is Revelation, which is going to be one of those big shells if you're going to be doing PvP, because this shell can make things like Freya and Kazio the Reverie into absolute DPS monsters and allow it so Rosa and Yeli and as well as Messiah can just delete the HP bars off your enemies. So definitely going to need a ton of these shells. So the most important character to build for this fight is going to be Obel, and the reason why Obel is so important is because, well, he stuns the minions, which are the bane of this fight. The minions are able to counterattack and apply silence and wound, which means you can't heal or use abilities, and either of these effects can just make it so you just immediately lose the battle. And it's really hard because it's a 4-man team comp versus a 5. You may be able to have a cleanser, but then the cleanser won't be able to heal if you're using a healer like Ling Luo. When you heal and they have wounds, maybe it doesn't cleanse immediately, so you could just use the heal ability and maybe you cure their silence, but you don't actually heal them, so then they're nuked the next turn. There's just so many variables, and the only way to make it so this fight isn't an RNG circus is to leave that stun on those minions so they just don't do it for a while. And because of that, the shell you're going to want to use is Codex of Magic. And that is, well, you just want to double up on the skill 3 and put the minions offline as much as possible. So double Codex is going to be really strong for this fight. And we are going to want to have the skill 1 fully upgraded. It's going to increase the chance of dot effect on the level 3, but more importantly, it gives you speed, and you want Obel to be the fastest character in the fight because you want him to stun the minions at the beginning so they are never able to counterattack and apply their status ailments. So I would highly recommend upgrading his skill 1 to level 5 as well as the skill 3 to level 5. And I would say that the skill 3 is mandatory and the level 1 is actually mandatory. It's just that, well, I don't have the lattices for that because it feels like there is no lattices right now. And that's totally okay because on the next reset, I know I'm going to be good to go on that front. So let's go on to the next character. For our main DPS of this fight, we are going to be using my boy Fangus. And the reason for this is, well, he has so many follow-up attacks and he's going to be applying dot like no other. And you're going to want a max skill 1 and skill 2 for this fight, and I would highly recommend getting his skill 3 to level 3 just because you're going to want that speed down as much as possible. So any type of chance to improve that is going to be definitely a really strong decision. And for the shell, I'm going to be opting to use a Gigabyte shell with Swift Rush and a lot of effect accuracy. I think Gigabyte is really strong in this fight because, well, once the minions start rolling, it gives you just a little bit of upgrade. Now, I do think that a Jackal Guard is just as good, if not better, in this fight, but I just have a stronger Gigabyte shell at this point. And I really like having Strive, where most of the time you only care about having the Swift Rush, but it's really nice to have that secondary effect. And because I do have enough Strive pieces, we are rocking that. So Gigabyte, our Jackal Guard, max skill 1, max skill 2, and hopefully you get the skill 3 to level 3, but you know, it is what it is. It's not a super requirement. It just makes it feel better. Now, the awkward part of this fight is to make it a real 100%, in my opinion, you're going to need 2 units. You're going to either need Shadow Sonya or you're going to need Lily. I tried a lot of different options, and unfortunately, I don't have Colossus or Lily on my account, and this feels horrible without either of them because of the RNG circus that is the minions. And, well, he makes it so the defense is lower. And as someone whose main DPSs on their account is Rahu and Holden, there is absolutely no shot I can farm Shadowflame Hoyan with 100% due to that. So pulling Shadow Sonya this week has been a huge game changer. We're going to max the skill 1 all the way for the extra speed and more of the dots. But more importantly, what makes this character so busted is with Codex of Magic, we're going to be able to do 2 skill 2s, which are going to extend the dot durations from Obol and Fengus, and then we're going to unleash the noise with the skill 3, which will hopefully leave the boss at a quarter of their health, so then we only need to apply a couple of more dot effects to finish them. So Shadow Sonya is going to be really strong. Now after those 3, I would say that Shadow Sonya, you could use Lily in Twin Trip Fangussie, and that will definitely be enough to bring the noise, especially with that extra speed and twin tricking. But the problem is well, both of those units are light and dark units, so I I don't know what to say. I don't. If someone figures out how to 100% win rate this, besides having those 2 units are Silence, I would really like to know. Unfortunately, I can't show the Silence combo way to do it, which she does it because she removes the passive of the counterattacks from the minions, which makes it a lot more manageable. So that's how it is on that front. But we're going to actually talk about the healer unit because this one has 2 different options to it. So let's go to that. Now, there are 2 units, in my opinion, you can use as the healer sustain in this battle, and the first one we're going to talk about is Ling Luo. The reason why Ling Luo is so good is because she is able to have a chance to cleanse that annoying silence. And having your Shadow Sonya or your Obol or your Fengus silenced means they can't use their really strong skill and means so the fight might not win. So using Ling Luo, we're able to cleanse this. Now the problem with Ling Luo is, well, the cleanse isn't a 100% guarantee, and due to that, well, you know, if she doesn't cleanse the wound, then she can't heal, and then it's just going to be bad news bears. So it's a little bit awkward on that front, but it is nice having that 75% chance twice, and it's only if RNG really isn't favoring you that you're going to take the L on that. Now, the other healer you can use in this battle is going to be Valerian, and her shield is just going to be on all the units at the very beginning, and that is because you're going to start off with Obol to stun and really bring the noise. But more importantly, one of the things with this fight is that I can't click shield. I don't know the actual wording on it, but it feels like usually when a character has a shield, it's really hard for them to get a status ailment. So this is going to protect you a little bit from that wound and silence, but the thing is because, well, if they get hit with the silence, and you're not going to be able to cleanse it with Valerian. Valerian is just going to help with longevity purposes. So if you're able to not need the cleanse factor of this, then Valerian is going to excel at being the shielder healer for the battle. But if you need the cleanser option, Ling Luo is going to be miles ahead. Now, if you don't need a healer at all, you can actually use Doki Doki in this battle if you have the max skill 2 and skill 3, because with the backup stacks, you're going to be able to cleanse any of the effects, and the turn meter increases is going to be absolutely insane, and then the follow-up with the skill 2 means that Obol is going to be able to use his stun 3 times in a row versus 2, as well as Fengus is going to really bring that speed down. Now the problem with using Doki Doki is you're not going to have the healer if you go that route, so you have to have the skill 1 maxed out, and you're going to need to have this pretty much maxed out. You're basically not going to be able to use unoptimized characters if you go the Doki run, but if you do have all the lattices in the world and you have, say, like a maxed out Obol and Fengus with lattices, then actually Doki Doki will be better than both of those. The problem is well, there's not really enough lattices to do that, so unfortunately this is not going to be an option for me, but hopefully in a week or 2 I will be able to use the Doki and change my clear times from a minute to 30 seconds, which would be very nice. So without further ado, let's watch the battle with both of the healer options. Now I'm going to show the Ling Luo option first, which is the healer who can cleanse, but the heal is not guaranteed. we're going to start the battle off with the dot effect, and then we're going to press auto and really show how this fight is going to go. Now, you're always going to want Obel to go first and then Fangus, and the reason for that is with Shadow Sonya, her skill 2 is going to make those 1-turn dot effects become, well, 2 and extend the factors on it. So definitely a huge thing. And as you can see, we have tons and tons of dot effects now. And as you can see from that heal that happened, the first heal did not work, but the second one did. So that is really nice. Now we're at the very end of the fight, and well, as you can see, we are going to bring the noise. So yeah, definitely super easy. So instead of showing the Valerian in this battle, what I'm going to do is actually talk about some personal thoughts I have on this game currently, since we're at that 1 month mark. And what I would say is that it is extremely alarming how strong the dot team is compared to just using normal units. And the problem with just like having a good DPS like a Rahu is, for example, in Shadowflame Hoyan, the Rahu is going to be able to survive for way longer than the dot team. But the problem is how it does its mechanic to make the battle a fight against time, which is lowering defense, makes it so characters like Holden and Rahu are useless. And since there are so little lattices in the game, it means that, well, using units like that, you just get punished and you aren't able to clear content, which I think is really, really sad because, well, there's not 12 lattices that are given in the game for free every month, I believe. I think from me calculating it, what was not included in the charter, you get about 10 in my opinion. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I included the Dazzler Pulse one, the 1 and 20% that you get off the Union shop, the 4 you get off of the AI arena, and just a little bit more. I think you get 1 off the RTA shop. So it's just like, I added like everything up and it was not 12. And I think they have to do that because, well, if you don't have a Shadow Sonya or a Lily, this fight feels pretty hard to manage, because if you do have to build another character, well, you might not be able to do that for an entire month. And that is a problem because, one, it's going to make someone quit the game because of how powerful Revelation is in PvP. It is absolutely no joke when you're trying to play a competitive game, and their Freya can one-shot your team because of a shell that you can't get. So that is a little bit of a problem, but more importantly in terms of the lattices is because we could say we want more lattices, right? But, you know, you have to think that this game wants to make money. And my argument for adding more lattices into the game is, well, characters are just not worth it if you don't have lattice for them, right? Like, for example, I'm not pulling Yelly because I have no lattices I can use. And Yelly is honestly very underwhelming unless if you have 11 to 12 lattices. And no one is really going to have that. So if you want people to spend $100 to $150 to guarantee an LD unit, which is a really high selling point for games like this, well, then you're going to need to have lattices for people to have. So I think that in order to stop the nerfs, to make people enjoy the game more, you're just going to have to give gold lattices, because right now, Rango and Shadowflame Hoyan, if you're not using extremely specific teams that require LDs and SSRs, that it feels pretty much impossible due to the RNG casino circus that is around them. And the only way to experiment in us figuring it out is to use gold lattices on different units. And the problem with that is, well, if I use my purple lattices on, say, Catchy the Guard, and my team doesn't really utilize Catchy the Guard in the same way as other people's teams, then I can't experiment with an SR unit for 2 weeks to really figure out what can be used to farm this farm content that isn't even really supposed to be made as something that you do in the game, but more of a background fight. So yeah, we definitely need to be able to do that kind of stuff, because it's nice that they're nerfing certain content to make it so people are able to do it, but I would argue that, you know, nerfing a little bit of the HP and attack of Shadowflame Hoyan is not going to change the fact that, well, most people aren't going to be able to do it because they don't have two specific characters, and they're not going to be able to experiment and try to figure out what they actually need because there is no resources to build a lot of characters. And in a game where they really want you to have 15 characters leveled up, it's sort of crazy that there isn't any room for experimentation. And you could argue that, well, it's just the first month of the game and that it will get better. Well, it's not going to get better if we don't even get enough gold lattices to build one character a month, especially since there's over 50 characters at launch. And if we're getting the same amount, which we had 5 banners in the first month, well, if we can't even build one of those 5 characters, why would I even pull a single one? So I think if the game gives us more, then we're going to be able to give the game more money, as well as people are just going to enjoy the game more. So that's enough of that rant. Let me know what you think about it, and I'll see you guys later.